Go ahead and call to order the February 1st Gig Harbor Parks Commission meeting here at 5:31. We'll do a roll call to start things off. Ben Coronado, Parks Commission Chair. To my right, I got Stephanie Lyle.
Here.
Les McCown. And then via Zoom, we have our newest member, Doug Smith.
Doug Smith.
Via
Correct.
Malaysia.
Wow.
Yeah,
I am in Malaysia.
we're international at this point. Pretty cool.
Looking forward to getting home though.
Louise had mentioned she's on her way in, so she should be arriving shortly and we'll recognize her when she gets in here. And then I haven't heard anything about Will. Okay, I know he kind of runs late sometimes too, but so we'll give him a benefit of the doubt. Move on to item number 2, the approval of the minutes from the December 7th Gig Harbor Parks Commission meeting. There's a motion to approve those as written. I'll go ahead and move to approve those minutes as written from the December 7th meeting. There's a second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approved as written. All right, on to item 3, public comment. Any public comment? No one here? No one on Zoom? No attendees. All right.
Doug, introduce himself.
Yeah, Doug. Hi, Doug. Welcome to the
Hi.
Gig Harbor Parks Commission.
Thank you
Would
very
you like
much.
to take a few minutes and introduce yourself to us
Sure.
all?
Be glad to. So, good afternoon, I guess. Good morning from here. My name is Doug Smith and I moved to Gig Harbor in 2019, having retired from a 40-year career with ExxonMobil all around the world. And that's why I end up with a legacy in Malaysia. That's where I met my wife back 37 years ago. So this is her home. And we come back and visit it, where we have been each year, except for a few COVID detours. I retired, as I said, in 2019, moved to Gig Harbor mainly because I love boating. And I spent my youth all boating on the East Coast, so I know that coast extremely well. I wanted to do destination boating as a key activity during retirement. And I think everybody who lives here knows it, but some of the best destination boating in the world is in the Pacific Northwest. Destination meaning if you want to go someplace overnight or for the week or for the month. So first thing we did was buy a boat. Then we tried to buy a house, couldn't find the house we wanted. So my wife ended up building one, at which point we lived on the boat for a year. So I got to know downtown Gig Harbor extremely well. But that happened to be the year, half that year was COVID. So I have a certain linkage to the parks, if for no other reason than that boat was only 29 feet and it got small every day. And so we are off that boat exploring. So I think I stepped foot on every piece of public land in Gig Harbor just in pursuit of, something to stretch your legs. And in fact, I have a list of the, 20 best hikes in Gig Harbor if anybody ever wants it. So, but as a result, I feel like I saw every park that there was in the harbor and felt a certain desire to help out. That resulted in my participating in one cleanup day. I think the first one coming out of COVID. And I can't remember who it was on the commission, but I had a good talk and was inspired to apply for a position, which I then subsequently did. So I guess that's why I'm here. I have a lot of background in project management. So I managed some very large projects for half my career, specialties in contract management, contract drafting, quality assurance and supervision. And I felt like all of those things might be helpful with the kind of activities that go on in the Parks Commission. So really, I'm here to help, though unfortunately I'm in Malaysia. I do travel a lot, and I tried to make that clear when I was applying. I don't believe it is a big restriction because I'm happy to work remotely. But we do have a second home in Malaysia, which in normal times, we come for a couple of months during the winter. Because it's COVID, we're here a bit longer this year because my wife hadn't been back to see her family for a couple of years. Also, we just keep up a pretty good travel schedule in retirement. I'm also a volunteer for Special Olympics. I'm a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary and spend a fair amount of time involved with that activity. Something else too. Oh, Kiwanis as well. So I don't think I'm spread too thin because, as I said, I'm retired, so I have some time on my hands. We eventually built a house out on Reed Drive. So if anybody's familiar with that little community 6 on Reed, right outside the city boundaries in the incorporated city area, unincorporated. And we are very happy to be residents of Gig Harbor. So it's just my wife and I have 2 kids that live in Washington, DC. One is the director of finance for the Nature Conservancy. So he tells me he's making amends for my 40 years of working for ExxonMobil by dedicating his career to environmental conservation. And I have a daughter who also lives and works in Washington, DC.
Fabulous.
That's me.
Great, happy to have you, Doug. Glad to be having you a part of the commission.
Doug, did I hear you correctly? You live on the boat presently?
I do not. So we lived on the boat while the house was being built. And as soon as the house was habitable, my wife got off that boat very quickly. And so we moved.
Where is your boat?
It's at Gig Harbor Marina
Gig Harbor Marina?
and Boatyard.
Okay. I overlook Murphy's Landing, so that's why I asked.
Okay, so we're further, obviously closer to the entrance to the harbor. And you have a boat as well?
Oh, well, I have a smaller one, but I own a slip at Murphy's Landing, yes.
Very good. I wish I owned a slip in. Great alternative.
Yeah, so we have a pretty good diverse skill set here. What we all bring, we have everything from museum director Stephanie here and Les, you come from a background in project management as well, is that right? Or-
I was public administration and then ultimately marketing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Teacher education, yeah.
Yeah, and so I know we have a Louise, she works with Metro Parks Tacoma, doing, I believe, finance for them as well. So we have a pretty good diverse skill set, and I'm happy to hear what you're able to bring too. So and then Will, he works for what, City of Burien, I believe?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I think City of Burien, he does. I want to say it's like city engineering, but I could very well be
Yeah,
mistaken.
something like that, yeah, but
Um,
definitely works or city planning.
Yeah, maybe it's city planner.
Okay.
States, I'm not 100% sure what he does, but. Yeah,
Oh, cities.
yeah, and then I run a small company with my folks and my brother, and we do home inspections, and
Oh,
so.
Great. As I said, I'm glad to help. And I'm an engineer by background, mechanical engineer, and spent a whole lot of half of my career in research, and then the second half executing projects overseas. But a lot of experience in construction and as I say, contracting, project management.
Awesome.
Any states work for GP? The law company?
Oh, is that right? Okay, yeah, I think
We're
we're-
talking about the same town.
Yeah, I think you're
Or at
right.
least he did for a while.
Yeah. So yeah, we cover, everything head to toe for parks, depending on what's on the agenda, so. Feel free to, raise your hand, pipe in if you want to, or just, tap, 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 or whatever you gotta do.
I think I'll listen. I'll try listening for a little bit and then
Okay,
take it from
fair
there.
enough, yeah. I'm glad that you're pretty well acquainted with most of the parks, though, it sounded like, so that's nice to jump in with that background, so.
Okay.
So we'll move into item number 4. Should we hold off and at least till Luis gets here for that? Can we move that agenda item?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and move item 4 to probably. We'll bump that down the list to after staff reports. That should give Luis plenty of time to arrive, I guess. So we'll jump to the new item 4, discussion items. Item A is the Crescent Creek Park Master Plan, and it looks like we have some pretty good headway from starting off with HPV, is that right? That already this month, you guys had a meeting earlier to kind of
Yep.
set up the
in
preliminaries.
January, and then tomorrow is our first kind of regular meeting. We're doing every 2-week check-in. But we kind of pushed the structural analysis of Masonic Lodge up to the front of the project because that can affect the site. Depending on that.
Hi, Louise. So we just jumped into item A of the Crescent Creek Master Plan. We did push the election chair, vice chair to a little bit later in the meeting. but she just,
And this is Doug.
oh, yes, and from Malaysia.
He's in Malaysia.
New
Hi.
Zealand.
better connection than most of us
Yeah.
locally. Jennifer, quick question. When you're talking about the Masonic Lodge, you guys have the complete history of that building, right? Because it was the Crescent Valley School.
From your website mostly.
Oh, good.
but Yeah,
Okay, excellent.
yeah,
Because I think that's important to
It
take
is.
into the equation because
It
it's just, it's not the building you expect. We call it the Masonic Lodge, but it's really the original Crescent Valley School, which was a pretty big
Really
deal
cool
when it
building.
was. Yeah. And we actually have an oral history of a guy talking about when they chopped the top off of it and put it next to it, which seems so weird to me, like, why would you do that?
yeah.
But they
And
did
boarded
that.
all the windows.
Yeah, and so, you know, he doesn't get into a lot of detail about it, but he does mention that it happened and he was, you know, he was around when it happened and. So it's kind of a interesting phenomenon. There was another architect that contacted us because he was doing a project on the architects that he believes designed that building originally. So I'll try to dig that up. I can't, it's been a while since I was in touch with him to see what he found out, because they found that they were building other schools around the state. And there's a certain distinctive style to what they created, so, you know, I know we can't recreate that, we can't bring that back, but it is a pretty interesting story.
Is that one of the oldest standing schools in the harbor still? Is that the oldest?
No, it's not the oldest, Midway's probably the
Midway,
oldest,
yeah.
but, and I wanna say, I'd have to go back and look, but I think that was built in the twenties,
Okay.
early twenties, yeah. Cause there are a lot of one-room schoolhouses, that was a two-room schoolhouse, that was a big deal, 2 floors, 2 rooms, you know, kind of a big deal.
Yeah, the pictures are so cool.
Mhm.
So did you have any questions about? Yeah, so these are just our kickoff meeting and notes. So we tried to identify some people that should be, or groups to be included in a community advisory council. And we will ask one planning commission member to represent the planning commission if that would.
Or parks too.
Huh?
How about the parks? too?
I meant parks. I meant parks, sorry.
No, no,
I'm
no.
Yeah, I'm an old planner, so. Yes, Parks Commission. They put planning commission, but honestly, we might mix that. We had somebody from planning in that meeting.
Oh,
And
okay,
they suggested that, but we're not sure that that's necessary. The parks definitely,
okay.
sorry for saying.
And then, so I had a couple kind of comments, I guess,
Yeah.
or questions. So there's no urgency in annexing that property then, it sounded like.
Not major urgency, but we do want to do it relatively.
Okay.
There, it will affect permits if we're working on the Masonic Lodge site and but we're a long ways out from even knowing what we're applying for.
Okay, so is that like post visioning master plan?
So we're
probably?
trying to coordinate it kind of with the comp plan update, but we could probably get that done as its own side project.
Yeah.
pretty- Relatively quickly.
And the other one I saw was that the SEPA is required for the formal adoption of the master plan. Is that normal? Like,
That's what planning has told us,
oh, okay.
but yeah,
Cause that's a whole thing with the state where, yeah, that
What
gets
is-
cumbersome.
what is the-
State environmental protection.
Oh,
Agency.
yeah, okay.
and yeah, basically there's a checklist you need to fill out for the preferred plan, and then it gets sent to tribes, ecology, like governing, or, yeah, government agencies.
So were the tribes on that CAC at all?
Yes,
Okay,
we have Jennifer Keating,
okay,
who's, planning on their end and historic.
Okay. yeah. 'cause-
Yeah.
And who is fabulous,
Yes,
Yes,
fabulous human being and very good at her job.
yeah. And she says there's definitely some historic tribal use of that site.
Okay.
Definitely want them in there. Yeah, and I've been getting email, even though we haven't gone public with this master planning process as of yet, kind of funny, I've been getting emails from people with ideas. And so in one day I got a petition signed by 14 families with dogs, and then they even like listed the name of their dog. Lola, big dog, and Bentley, medium dog. And then, same day, I get emails saying, I've heard rumors that people want a dog park, and that would be absolutely disastrous for the ecosystem.
Right.
So. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And I've had pickleball requests too.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
I do have a question. In the process of working with the tribes, there was a lot of conversation about a sort of supplemental village site at Crescent Creek. Do we have any of the documentation of that, or like where that information actually comes from? Besides, I mean, I don't want to say besides the tribe, but the tribe may be the source of that. But I have never seen that anywhere. And it would be interesting to know what the source material is for that. It's not surprising in any way, because it's a very abundant creek.
Mhm.
And it would be surprising that people weren't camping there or fishing there. But I think that it would be interesting to know that, and I don't know, Louise, you know, but that documentation would be really interesting to know more of. Yeah.
So that,
I've only heard that from the tribe as well. I don't-
me too. But I do recall that there were some very old photos, I thought at least two. That sort of showed the women's village in the background. But I don't know how to authenticate that that was where the. Yeah, those old daguerreotypes were taken,
Right,
right?
Now, were they sourced from the tribe? Because there's a couple from Young's Landing that look across the harbor at kind of a museum site where the longhouses were, but I've never seen anything from Crescent Creek.
I don't know.
There's
It's worth asking.
yeah. Okay, I'm just curious, because any kind of information like that we can find helps with the process. Yeah.
Do we know also when they built the structures at Crescent Creek, not the Masonic Lodge, but the picnic shelter and all that?
I'm pretty sure we can find that because
But
they're
did they-
WPA.
Did they find artifacts at that time?
I don't know.
Would they have documented that, or would they have
That's good
tucked that
question.
away?
I have a couple of sources that we might be able to look at and see, because they were documenting different WPA projects around the state, so maybe we can find more information. Yeah, that's a good question.
If it was the women's village and there were substantial numbers of women there every single day doing women's village things,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be relics of that, right? There's gonna be pottery and knives and bones and all the things that go along with women's villages. So,
yeah, it's hard to know. I haven't seen any artifacts from that site, but that doesn't.
yeah, I mean, they're not there.
Les, anything?
No, I'm
No.
learning more than I'm. at this point.
I know, it's really nice.
Yeah.
There's so much knowledge on this commission. I really appreciate it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
So if I understand this, is this a report by this HPV
Well, this is a summary of our kickoff meeting
Okay.
that we had.
and they or who came up with a list of possible people on the CAC?
We did, myself and Jeff Lanehelm and, planning department. And something that, our, parks maintenance guys
Okay.
were there. So if there's anybody that you think we missed or.
No, I'm interested in process and what's gonna go down the road and potential attendance. and inclusion and so forth,
Mhm,
and how transparent it will be
mhm.
in the meetings and so forth, so. So that's what, when is this first group gonna be put together?
We are, I believe, and I'll confirm tomorrow during our meeting, but I think we're looking at March for our first
Okay.
kickoff meeting. So, yeah, so if any of you are particularly interested in working on that, let me know, or you can talk amongst yourselves and nominate someone or, but we've got a little time until that happens, and then there will be, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3, oh yeah, 3 city council. And then we'll have a couple of public, like open house type things for people to come and look at sort of what we come up with and give feedback. and-
Right.
Do you know if, I know that the city's working on a grant for culvert removal on the Harbor View.
Mhm.
Are they doing anything with the culvert removal at Crescent Creek?
It's not not in the next 2 years that I.
Because to me, that would be a big piece of it, because that is such an important creek, it's a silver creek, so it's like, if that could be opened up, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Obviously, they've managed, but it's a lot less of an impediment than a 4 to 5 foot leap, to a concrete culvert that on the other
Yeah.
creek, but,
Yeah, and
but-
we were
but yeah.
generally, and talking about parameters, we're gonna try to, obviously preserve the WPA structures, but leave kind of the stream buffer alone.
Mhm.
We don't want it to anything down there, Abraham's, some planting.
Yeah. It's
So we're
very
more
large.
worried about outside the 200 fields, open.
And does the city, I know there was at one point, there was talk about purchasing an additional piece that's kind of behind the park. Not where the BMX stuff is and the volleyball courts, but down low along the creek.
Right.
And I don't know if
Did
that was
we-
ever done or not.
They did purchase one that goes in the creek and then across it.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
to the other side of the park,
Yes.
yes.
But we're not looking at that too much either. That's more like conservation and access would be huge.
Mhm.
We're not gonna build a pedestrian bridge or anything.
Right, right. But it is part of the property adjacent, so that doesn't matter.
For some of these groups, how do we intend on soliciting for representatives?
So I have contacts for, been slowly trickling in, and if anybody has any insights on some of these, let me know. We've got a lot of contacts for Central, the Crescent Valley Alliance. Adjacent neighbors are easy to send a mailer out to.
The adjacent neighbors? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Is that gonna include the ones immediately outside the city limits as well?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I've got an email for a volleyball person, I've got an email for a little league person. So we'll just kind of be reaching out to them one by one. If anyone has any,
Yeah, for the BMX,
I don't,
is actually the one who helped build the jumps,
oh, awesome,
yeah, so.
yeah. Send that my
So-
way.
So when it says no representative, does that mean you don't want someone from that
Correct.
group? Okay,
Correct,
so we can,
yeah, city council will
Okay.
hear, and, yeah, I think we're leaning towards not having someone from the commission.
Okay.
Kind of look at it later. So, is there anyone that you think we might have missed? We're also looking at like shelter reservations and seeing if there's somebody that's rented it like every year for a few years. They might come.
What about someone from the schools? You know, kind of representing kids' interests in this. That is a park that's hugely used by the preschool groups, you know, as well as
and
I mean,
preschool
that's-
is on here somewhere?
high school, well,
Yes,
not
the-
just that preschool, but preschoolers, right? Because of the nature of the toy that's there, right? So it attracts people with babies because they've got a
Yeah.
swing set
Yeah.
that's suitable for that
Mhm.
and other things. And then the I know that both high school bands meet there periodically. You know, things like that, right? There's decent amounts of kids that are used to that.
Yeah.
So,
I think we had a lot of success with that at the KLM park.
yes,
Yeah, of incorporating them into kind of the visioning process. I don't know if it was the actual visioning process or some aspect of that, but that was very successful. They brought a whole
Yeah.
fourth grade class out and
do you know about this school partnership with Veterans Park? So very briefly, the Discovery Elementary's kind of gifted program kids were active participants in the choosing of and the city made 2 different presentations to that class of school kids to teach them how to read engineering. Plans. It was pretty sophisticated, right? And then they came with their iPads and there were many representatives, the police and fire, city council, parks commission, engineers, ecologists, and the kids went from group to group to group and kind of rotated and figured out what role each of those sets of adults played in developing a park. They then did a movie on all that and took it back to the entire school. And they also had 3 choices of toy to choose from. And they made this presentation to the school and they recommended what toy they thought was right. And the school voted. And that is the toy that we have now. And they did the ribbon cutting as well. But it was a really great collaboration. It was one of the most fun days I've had as a parks commissioner. I think we should do that as often as humanly possible. And you do have a middle school close by, you know, up the hill there.
I would second that. I would definitely get in this high
Okay.
school
Is,
class involved.
this is a dumb question, but when I was a kid, PAA was a big deal. Like, they were organized. Are
Yes.
they still active?
PAA was absorbed into Penn Met Parks.
Oh, okay.
Sandra Kern, who ran that program, just retired from Penn Met, but
Okay.
she effectively ran the same PAA program, but
Okay.
now rebranded as Penn Met
Yeah.
Parks.
Because we used to use that ball field all the time. when I was a
And they
kid.
do.
Yeah, that's great. I hadn't heard about that.
Fantastic. It was just fantastic.
So close is elementary school.
Because those kids now, for the rest of their lives, they absolutely have ownership in that park. But the other thing was that they started thinking up that they could help the city make decisions, right? Even though they were young. That they have a voice and that kind of empowerment, especially of some very bright kids, is really powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
it will show up in the city in short order, right, as they are engaged citizens
Yeah,
and they're 10, right?
Yeah.
And 15, you know, as they grow up,
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
more and more capable.
great idea.
Can-
Talk about that tomorrow.
Can I make one comment to you about visibility and transparency of processes?
I have another comment too, go ahead.
My experience with Ansich was that if you were on it and paying attention, then you could get an awful lot of information. You can go to, but you have to be actively looking at agendas in order to see if your project is showing up at the planning commission, at the parks commission, at city council, and follow along. And then, as Jennifer said, those group nights to come in, and then we also had focus groups that met to give their opinions. So there was quite a lot of interaction, kind of right up until it got to the actual design of the building. But nonetheless, you can, but I don't think it's easy. But you can't, if you said, oh, I wanna know about Crescent Creek Park, I don't think that like the website has an easy way to say, I want to be involved in this. Can I get notified every time there's going to be a meeting about it? Could we? Maybe. I don't know what the city's capabilities are, but that you got to kind of piecemeal that together yourself as a citizen.
I am starting, I have an email list I've been adding to when people like email me with ideas or whatever. Would you like to be on that? Then I'm gonna send out, we're having
Yeah.
this meeting, or we're forming our group and we want representatives, like that type of thing. you guys.
I mean,
Yeah.
not suggesting wide open discussion, so what I am suggesting though, and kudos to this information, kudos to the future information, communication to this group, who happens to be the Parks Commission, and should have a role and a voice as we continue down the road. So that's what I'm really talking about there. So we're informed, because we're gonna have a role and a voice somehow.
Mhm.
down the road.
And people will be asking you.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do. Yes, absolutely. So,
Want more updates when something just happens,
Yeah,
or just is monthly not?
yeah,
Good
I'm not
enough,
being,
or-
not being critical, I'm in fact, I'm being the opposite. Just this kind of communication is good, keep it up, and particularly to commission members and the commission, so
Yeah.
we can be not influential, but a good voice, because that's
Yeah,
our role.
yeah, when you talk to your neighbors.
Absolutely.
That's under here, keep Parks Commission informed on the park master plan process.
One-
Under outreach process diagram. I
Yeah.
don't- uh,
Good stuff, and I keep it up.
Okay, do you want more updates outside of meetings? or
Yeah, just
something?
the information that help us do our job as the commission.
Okay.
Yeah,
So Jennifer, along these lines, with this outreach process diagram, it looks like there's some steps here. Are these steps already taken? Or are these steps to come?
Which
In
page are
terms
you on?
of the, you know, the outreach process diagram, it has the city council study session, email to city council,
Oh,
and then a
this
council.
will happen. We haven't done any
Okay,
of this yet.
okay.
Yeah. So we're just kind of.
So the master plan is in motion, but it's not set or approved or
Right.
otherwise.
Right, and they've actually sent me a draft public participation plan just yesterday, which I haven't had a chance to look over yet. But we're gonna discuss that tomorrow too, and so when we get a draft, like a staff approved draft. complete, we'll have to run it by the administrators and stuff first, but that'll help phase how we're gonna do our public participation.
Okay, so next steps then is if you have any recommendations for the CAC committees, send those to you.
Mhm.
Okay,
And then if anybody wants to serve on that committee,
absolutely.
have a special bond with that park or.
Okay.
hear it.
And it sounds like you're shooting for maybe post next meeting to have those finalized,
Have what finalized?
the CAC kind of,
Yeah,
okay, you said Marchish, is that what they, what did you say?
for our first meeting, yeah,
Okay, so maybe sooner than that then,
yeah.
How often are you anticipating meeting?
That CAC will meet 3 times, I believe. I'll have a better idea when we approve the full participation plan. And then we will, I'll update you, the Parks Commission every month, and then there will be a couple of public open houses. And, city council briefing every once in a while, but then they will ultimately vote on the approving the master.
Well,
can we do like a show of hands to see if anybody would be interested in doing that? I'm thinking, Les, would you have any?
so I think you people help. my greater help.
Yeah,
Plan there.
so as you said, you're good,
I'm good with.
are you good?
You're
Yeah,
gonna-
yeah.
you're just showing them how to do it.
We'll hold. We'll definitely give hold to Louise. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I will keep you informed.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so it sounds like we have our representative.
Okay. Very good.
I love that park. This is gonna be a fun project. It's
Yeah.
gonna take a long time, but this is a worthy.
There are
worthy
a
project.
lot of competing interests.
Yes,
and
so many.
So many.
Yeah, and it's the first park that Big Harbor ever had.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the original park, yeah. So it has a lot of history.
So will you be representing the museum then? Is
Yeah,
that what I
that's
assume?
what I'm guessing. yeah.
Okay. She's like, I am now. That would have been, it's either the parks or the museum.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully we'll have you there then as well.
Yeah, any more questions on that? For now, I will try to keep you informed when something noteworthy happens in between meetings and then, update every month.
Sounds great. glad to see this kind of taking that first step and next step or whatever it is, yeah. It's
Yeah.
been a long time in the works. so.
Landscape architects that we met with that came out seemed really. They seemed really cool, had some good ideas, asked a lot of good questions. So, and then they have a architect and a structural engineer or a civil engineer to look at you know, drainage and structures and whatever, and then. But yeah, like I said, they're trying to get the structural analysis of the lodge done.
To help kind of inform the process along the way, is that the idea behind that, or?
Yeah, just to get an idea of what it might cost to fix it up. To make it, it's not ADA accessible, it's that's down at the bottom right now, and then, yeah, if it has major issues in it, that Mason's also expanded it width wise too, so there's. Just to look at that was done properly, and we've had, in December, we had some flooding in there.
Oh, that's right, I saw that, was that in his, I saw that, I think I read it in this.
Yeah, somewhere.
How was that, it came, rainwater came up?
Rainwater came up through the foundation,
Yeah,
and yeah, it was like the week after Christmas, when it was high tides and
Yeah.
rain and all that.
all the water tables filled up.
So yeah, and then. Since then, our crew went out and took care of it as best they could, and they've left a dehumidifier in there for them. But and we've also had a mold inspection done. They came back, okay, it's safe for human. being. There was a little boy that was sensitive, so we wanted to.
Were any other parks damaged in the combination of the flood and the freeze?
I wasn't updated on all of them, but I do know that, I think it was Jurassic dock.
The
or
doc,
the,
it looked like it looked in,
yeah, or looked it up.
Yeah.
Way to go, like.
That shed definitely was flooded.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
Do we, this is completely kind of off topic, but do we have any role in the maintenance of collections associated with various parks and buildings in parks?
The maintenance of,
Like historic collections, I mean, there's whole historic collections in the Net Shed, the Wilkinson Barn. And the care and preservation of those collections should be of concern, but I don't know if those are under the umbrella of the nonprofits that run them, or if they're, like Wilkinson Barn just kind of closed up, but the Net Shed is another deal. I know there's people that are trying to take care of all of that. Is that the responsibility of the Net Shed Foundation, or is that the city? Is it a city collection or is it the Net Shed collection?
that is a good question. Ask that
And
question of
and
people
I don't know
that
if
more
you
than-
know, Jennifer, but at some point, if you want to come down to the museum and go through the stats, we have a whole section, probably good 8x8 section in our collection storage of Scansy House materials. Most of it's archival, but we do have that material that was cataloged and is stored. It's a city collection, but it's in our collection, so most people can still have access to it. Yeah.
Very good.
all right. Any other conversation on the Crest Creek? All right, we'll move on to naming of the conservation properties. So the underground breaking was last weekend, how did that go? I was unfortunately able to make that.
It was, yeah, it was
Okay,
January 14th. Yeah, the weather couldn't have been better. So, that went really well. So yeah, I just was gonna let you know, so Robin Winston had sort of, this is the name she prefers, the North Creek Salmon Heritage Site. Brings in a little tribal, and then talks about the, you know, the salmon, the creek, kind of why are we doing it? So we're gonna start soliciting names for this whole site, if anyone has any opinions. And Josh and I talked about it briefly, we were gonna do some sort of public solicitation, Josh. How we're gonna do that?
Yeah, the city council's park naming policy, basically the process starts off with soliciting names from the public at large, so that'll be the first step that we do. probably within hopefully the next week or so, we'll get an announcement up and get some good information on the website about the conservation properties and then get it out to the public that we're looking for name ideas and see what we come up with. And then once we have all those names, then we bring them back to the Parks Commission and get the Parks Commission to weigh in and make a recommendation on them.
And we do have an agreement with the property owner that sold us a big chunk of phase 2. That part of that property itself will be named after him, but so we'll run that by as well, but we're not sure how it's even gonna be used at this point. So it might be a trail, might be a forest, some part of that will be named after, so that is a contractual obligation that we have.
So is that signage and posting on the city's website then of that? Is that kind of,
That name,
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
probably signage, and yeah. There's a trail on that property that will like to open up at some point in the future, so to know. So we can discuss options with him, and I let him know that we were just talking about the name tonight, so that's part of our agreement with him, is any sort of name and thing, we just keep him informed. But part of that phase 2 will need to be named.
gotcha.
I'm sure him.
So I understand what a donkey is, with the steam engine, right?
Mhm.
So Donkey Creek itself, though, is North Creek,
Yeah,
is that my understanding? Okay. So.
it goes by both, but that's the name that's on my official maps.
Okay.
And do we know if this creek, I mean, obviously it has a connection to the estuary. Do we know if it was incorporated into the 12 name or not? Or, if there was any connection with that?
The estuary boundary does not include the creek.
Right. But the name itself might, I mean, I know there's the estuary, but
You mean renaming North Creek, Ellicott, or something like that?
yeah, I mean, I'm just asking if
Yeah.
there's an original, I mean, there has to be an original name, obviously. But I don't know if it is the 12 cut or if it's something else. And I don't know if that's was ever even documented, so.
Or
Yeah.
Stephanie, are you talking about the official name of the creek or the estuary?
Well, I'm talking about what
Historic name.
the native people would have called it at the time that they lived here. But
Yeah.
we don't know what that is, so.
But I, my understanding from all the work that went into the estuary stuff was that they didn't tend to name things like that.
Mhm.
You know, like they called it what it sounds like.
Yeah,
So they call it the whatever, however you make the noise of
Yeah.
water
Mhm.
running, kind of
Mhm.
this. I'm trying to remember how it goes, but it's the sound that water
Yeah.
makes when it's
yeah.
clickety clacking over the stones, right?
Mhm.
That's
Makes
the
sense.
word for river, and I suspect that they called it that.
Mhm.
Because those proper nouns weren't as important.
Right.
And in a language that is onomatopoeic in nature.
Right, and the fact that, you know, it was probably a large area, not just one small space.
Yeah. I don't know, it's a good question to ask the Anna.
Yeah. I have the TT Waterman book to look and see if there's anything in there. There might be something, I don't have the same annotated version that the tribe has, but I do have that reference guidance.
Yeah, and there might be opportunities to name other parts of the park, if there's a trail on phase 3, which is, you know, separated physically from the other two by the road. Or if we build new trails or.
And I do have a map that shows the original Burnham Homestead. That is a portion of this, it's not all of it, but it's definitely a portion of it. So that could be helpful too, so.
Yeah,
It's, I always call that Burnham Drive, but it's Harborview in Burnham is the other one, and so it's like, it's so
Oh, it
weird.
comes up behind the restaurant.
Yeah, yeah, but okay,
Yeah.
till it gets to the split. so
Yeah.
How far do those creeks run north?
Really far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it goes under, it starts on the other side of the freeway up by the Burnham exit.
Oh, really? And then this whole other creek is just unnamed?
The one that's coming down from
Mhm.
Cushman Trail to
Yeah.
the,
Yeah,
to
that's
the,
the, like, we call that the stone.
Well, it goes through my backyard, actually. It goes through my backyard.
Yeah, and it goes down the side, and it's on the side of the burger place, you know.
Yeah.
You can see it kind of run down the hill there, but, and
Yeah,
then, of course, there's the stormwater pipe that goes underneath the lobby of the museum, which is that blue line. And, so it's like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, so then,
So the
this listening process,
The process, is it basically, we're gonna do something where we seek suggestions for names and things? Okay.
Yep.
Kinda like
And I
what we
think Josh has been wearing many hats of late, so he's kind of doing our communications piece. Not doing it himself, helping assign it to others, so we work together on getting that word out that we're looking for names.
Okay.
So,
so probably next meeting or two, and
yeah, he said within a
Or-
week, we'll get the word out, and so,
Okay.
yeah, maybe we can accept them up until the.
Yeah, I'd like to get it out sooner rather than later, and I think what I'd like to see is that the city has at least like a designated web page for these properties in an area that, you know, have a good map and some good images and really explain to people what they are, because I think we've been kind of releasing information piecemeal, so people may not realize how expansive it really is.
yeah, seriously, like, that's a
Really?
big chunk of downtown.
Yeah, it
impressive.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Saved forever.
I'm trying to
Just call
describe
it
it,
Central
people including my wife, couldn't do it.
Right?
Yeah, having that much natural area contiguous in a city is pretty impressive.
Right, and the goal is just conservation land, it's not to
Right.
develop, it's
Right.
just trails and stuff like that.
Trails
Yeah.
at the most,
Yeah, and I think. that
maybe
that's
a tiny
important for-
parking area. for
Yeah,
people
I
to walk
think
on.
that's important for people to know, yeah. It's not an uninvolved field.
Right. It's not pickleball courts.
No, no.
Sorry.
Not that. Not so flat.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Not so
Yeah.
tough to do that, yeah. For maybe on the upside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we do have related to this was in my update for later, but in the 23-24 budget, we've got some money to do a feasibility study about connecting Cushman Trail to Harborview
Mhm.
in across one of those properties. And we're not necessarily looking for the paved Cushman type trail experience, but just to get people down there. Well,
You said there's an existing bridge already?
there is a
It
bridge
is, yeah.
on the very northern part.
Okay.
Good part.
Yeah.
Won't tell.
And, yeah,
We don't want them back there yet.
when we were out there walking it, you could definitely get from Cushman down to Harborview. But
It's
it's
steep.
not, yeah,
I mean,
there's
that's-
part of it, it's super, super steep.
That looks like it's the
Uh,
highest point of the Cushman Trails is coming down.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, what is, I mean, yes, connecting Cushman Trail to Hurry, but like, I mean, other than that, there's no other connectivity, like, they're not connecting neighborhoods,
It's
not
not
connecting
connected
stores.
downtown, besides, yeah, way up by the street.
Mhm.
So,
There was some talk of bringing it down the line next to the sewage treatment plant.
yeah,
There was.
wrapping
But
around there.
that is rigorous terrain. I mean, I haven't walked it and it is not easy.
Right,
It would be tough to.
so we would make
Yeah.
it a lot, like the even decent, but not paved,
Mhm.
so walkable, bikeable for those who are able.
Okay. Cool. Any other conversation? No? All right, moving on to item C, the consumption of alcohol within the released park facilities, and this is based on our last meeting
Yep.
that we had, and then city council had their study session just recently. I think.
They did,
All right.
and they recommended moving that forward, so it's on the agenda. The ordinance is on the agenda for February 13th. It needs 2 readings, and then the second one, we're hoping to to bring forward the leases, and we gave lease amendments, and gave an example for the Standing Net Shed, they're a little simpler. The Gig Harbor Boat Shop is hoping for some other changes not related to alcohol, so we're working on those. So we will do those for those two nonprofits and their leases. But, and it will take 30 days after adoption.
I think that's a good idea.
So it's any part of the leased property?
Nope.
Oh.
Building, the boat shop wanted it, didn't want to, confined to a floor, but they have their music in there, so they want people to be able to have a glass of wine while they're listening to music, and then if they have, little events or stuff, fundraising stuff on the top floor, and then the boat, the house, the brick house, they manage that, and they want to allow their renters to have alcohol, if necessary, and, in accordance with state law.
Yeah.
So it would, be within the bottom floor of the house, the top floor is off limits to the public, and then, they can rent the deck as well. But they would have to have like little signs that say, no,
No alcohol beyond.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, so it's only within the confines of the building.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
And the
that deck, but the deck, then they string it up, I
Oh.
think on one side it says like private event. On the other side of it, say like no alcohol, you know,
I see.
that type of thing. So yeah, they're limited to 30 people max there anyways. Yeah. So hopefully that won't create any issues, but
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes.
Well, I think it's really essential to do this. I mean, we can't, it's the nonprofits and expect them to stay alive. It's better a fundraising event with alcohol, so. That's just the reality of it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's all I have on that, moving forward.
All right, D, the Parks Appreciation Day.
Yeah, so I haven't done that before, so you probably know a lot more than I do, but
Ken
I,
is the king of that.
So typically, yeah, we host it in April, you know,
around Earth Day.
around Earth
Which
Day,
is Saturday.
trying not to
here.
conflict with the Paddlers Cup, because
Mhm.
that's a big draw.
Which
away
is the 29th and 30th.
from- Okay,
Okay, Earth Day is the 22nd on Saturday
Yeah.
this
okay,
year.
that's perfect. That's nice when it falls right.
That never happened.
Okay, so yeah, April 22nd sounds like a good tentative date then.
Yeah,
April 22nd, you said?
Yeah.
yeah.
And
That
so,
would be, yeah, they, so.
Hey, we went to that town last time too. Okay.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And we've scaled back. Significantly, I think. Would we have 2 sites last year or 3 sites last year?
Yeah, it was like two, because we were, I wanna say it's Les Paul, but that's not, that's a
But-
guitar, that's not a mark. Yeah.
We were at,
Kenneth Leo Marvin, yeah,
yeah, and,
and
Wilkinson.
was it Wilkinson? Oh, okay, that's right, because I
The
remember
Holly
going to train too.
trainings.
yeah,
I think I dropped off stuff or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So and dependent on where the city's at with staff, I mean, we're happy to, you know, add another property or two if we. You know, if that sees fit, or if there's the work for that, I don't know, what do you guys think is? I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's, the reason it was down to the 2 parks was partly still trying to have some social distancing-esque, but mostly had to do with the availability of city staff.
Okay,
And so volunteers signed up, and came to their respective park, you know, to do work, and I was at Veterans Park, and we did a remarkable amount of weeding in a few hours, and enjoyed our coffee and donuts and headed off, you know, so it was like a 4-hour event.
okay.
And the city person was there to provide tools and to collect our bags of weeds and
So
put
there's
them
just
on the
one
truck.
staff person.
There was one staff person. And then people came visiting. The mayor stopped by, and your predecessor was at this park, and someone else from the city was at Wilkinson Farm, right? I don't know who it was, 'cause I wasn't there.
yeah, I was,
Yeah.
and then
So the
one of the maintenance guys was there.
So a couple parks people, a couple parks commissioners and a couple city staff that, in addition to the maintenance staff that were sort of supervising, and then council people dropped in and helped for a bit and said hello and were being supportive, and it was nice. So, and a couple people stopped because they were walking their dogs and used that park all the time and went, wait, I didn't know about this, and helped for half an hour, right? And so there's good community enthusiasm. They love the parks, and I think they are genuinely happy to help. So we get the word out, and we had a very short period of time to get the word out. By the time we decided that it even could be done, and it was less than 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
So a longer period now would allow for more volunteers. And there's some organizations that want to contribute as well. So,
we've been lucky, I mean, pre-COVID to do it in tandem with Metro Parks Tacoma and PennMet and Key Penn Parks. And so it was.
Yeah, shared.
Jurisdictional and shared marketing costs and stuff like that. So I don't know at what level.
Did that work out well?
It did work out really well. I mean,
Okay.
the Metro Parks Tacoma provided all the marketing material and I think hats and put it all over their Facebook, and then they offered up the zoo passes on top of that all, so they incentivized it, which was really nice. Yeah, they were a great partner to have that with.
I'm kind of embarrassed because I'm a Metro Parks person now. I don't know what our plan is for Parks Appreciation Day.
Yeah. What was his name that was in charge of it for a long time?
Probably Ross Wilton. Doesn't sound right. I don't know.
So Louise,
Yes.
Doug Smith, I met you at Veterans Park, and that's how I got involved a little bit with the parks. I think that there's a much greater opportunity to expand this should you want to, because I spoke to a number of my friends, none of which knew about it, and all of which, or many of which were interested in participating, of course, after the fact, when it's easy to say you'll help out. But I do think if we wanted to reach out to other groups, just as an example, if there was a park with a waterfront, I'm confident I could get the local Coast Guard Auxiliary to get excited about coming out and helping clean up that park. I mean, it's consistent with the mission. I think Kiwanis, for example, could get excited about helping out with the park, but I understand it's dependent upon the assistance of the city staff. But my only comment was that it, as I think you already recognized, it wasn't well publicized last year simply because of the situation coming out of COVID, I think. But if you wanted to make it much bigger, I think it would lend itself to doing so.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started participating in Parks Appreciation Day, there were 6 or 7 sites, and we were trimming trees in the forest back here and spreading beauty bark and, things that can be done by untrained volunteers, right? And a lot got done, and it looked great, and people were happy about helping with that. The Gig
But if they
Harbor
constrain-
Race Team cleans too. They clean up the actual low tide waterfront at Scansey Park.
If the constraint is the city, maybe that's the place to start and find out what their availability is, and then try to match a program to the resources that they can provide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'll find out about what Metro's doing and when,
Okay.
and
It was Richard Madison. Is he still-
he just retired
It is really?
December 1st, 31st.
Oh, really?
But someone else is doing it. It's not like it's a huge park district. It's not, Parks Appreciation is not going away. I'll
Yes.
find out about Metro. I can call PennMet too.
I mean, I would assume that'd be Matthew.
Matthew left and is now at City of Maple Valley.
I see.
I meet every other month with
Ally.
Ally, your director.
Well, so why don't you call Ellie then?
Okay.
And because she would for sure know kind of actual factual of what they're thinking.
Okay, and my predecessor in that.
Hugh,
Matthew
Yeah.
is there. I think he's there.
he's where?
Yeah,
At PennMet.
I thought you just said which one.
No, different Matthew.
Oh,
There's
Oh.
Oh,
One
I'm
of
so, I'm
one of them
sorry.
is at Maven.
I was like,
No, Matthew, the head of the rec program, who would have done the all that volunteer stuff.
Gotcha.
us.
Yeah, I think it's.
He's now at Maple Valley. I'm sorry, I forgot about Matthew Keough going.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Plenty.
okay.
No,
No,
sorry. My mistake.
Yeah, okay, well, I can reach out to them. see if they want
And
to
I don't
do
have
that.
any contacts at Key Peninsula.
I don't want it out there anymore either, actually,
And
because
then-
it was,
I think I have.
was the guy who passed away.
Yeah.
Yes. Scott.
He is gone. Oh, God rest him.
So April 22nd, tentative date.
And so we don't typically coordinate with downtown waterfront lines, and they're kicking off the harvesting.
Because that's the fall, that's usually like that following
It's
weekend.
It's May 20th.
Okay, it's the following one.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But if there's downtown parks, a lot of times if you need something done, Burlington.
Right, I think that's why we
Right.
tended to stay to the outside the downtown parks with our
Yeah,
appreciation day.
Okay.
Although one year we did the Soundview Forest when the
Oh,
first year we had
right,
it to
yeah.
just
Yeah.
clean up some of the trails and stuff like that.
So I talked to Kyle, who's our crew
Mm.
supervisor, if he had any ideas, and he gave me Soundview Forest as one with invasive species,
Oh, yeah.
blackberries, ivy, etc. And Wilkinson,
Mhm.
same issues. And then maybe a little on the Cushman. It's hard, like, they have a lot of scotch broom, but that's
Yeah.
hard. work
Yeah.
to go out.
It is
We
hard
have to
work.
dig it.
Small ones.
What about, what's the name of the park? It's the one that goes around the pond. Yes. And a lot of the viewing platforms seem like they need some love. And that may be more structural than we could take on in a Parks Appreciation Day, but it's a beautiful park and it's a lovely walk, but some of those viewing platforms definitely seem like they need some attention. Yeah, and I don't know if they just need to be power washed and painted or and stained, or, you know, I don't know if people know that much about that park, because it's kind of the secret part,
It
you
is
know,
kind of secret.
but it is a beautiful spot.
It's a beautiful spot.
I
He
saw
told me
wood
that
there.
you kind of have to be careful about stepping on the toes of the union
Oh, sure, that makes sense, yeah.
employees, but I will ask them about that.
Mhm. We certainly don't want to do that.
What about any of the Cushman trailheads? Do
Mm.
any of those need any attention? I don't know. I think the one Cushman trailhead over by here, where are we at?
On the freeway.
Yes,
Yeah.
that one. That actually has bike racks at it that a Boy Scout built.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
because I know we've had Boy Scouts approach us before and be like, what projects can we do? And one is wanted to put like flagpoles in it. I was like, oh, everything and all this other stuff might be a little, you know,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
bike racks idea was like,
Good.
yeah. Other parts.
And then if anybody wants to throw money at anything, Kyle talked about the solar caps that are on the safety marker posts
Oh.
are failing, and so. Anyone knows the one that wants to donate, he's probably gonna go buy some soon.
How much money are we talking about?
Well, he's trying to do an experiment, I guess some of them were like $18 each, but but they only lasted about a year
Hmm.
and figured that actually changing out the battery. Like they get so damaged and some of them get vandalized as well, that he thought it needed to be totally replaced. And he might experiment with a couple more in the $30 to $40 range to see if they have better lasting life, but yeah, there's somebody.
Yeah, it's challenging in this environment too, because we have some solar powered lights and stuff, and it's like.
Or
you-
dark,
you-
depressing
you put them
environments.
to the And that's why there are motion sensors, so they're not all very long.
Yeah, there you go.
And when you need them the most in the dark pits, as long as they don't get
Yeah.
any,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's
exactly.
great if they're shining at 1 AM in July.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the motion sensor idea, that's a safety thing for the Christmas trail.
Yeah,
So
for
they can
sure.
see if people are on the trail with you and stuff like that.
They actually work really well. Because on the trail behind the museum, you know, we put up some motion sensor lights along the back side there. So if someone's walking by, it should pick up the motion and be able to light.
Are they
that
wired though? Or
They're not,
solar?
they're solar.
Okay.
And, you know, there's still, it's his test period, but in the summertime it works okay, but that side never gets very much direct sun. So it's hard to charge solar, but, yeah. these
That's an
days-
interesting idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can't wire out there,
Yeah.
even though there's electricity.
Right there.
Right. Well, yeah, you could
Tap
do
a power
posts
pole.
along the way that would light that trail.
Hmm.
And it's a lot more open, so you would get a lot more solar charging during the day.
Yeah. Well, these are just, the ones he was talking about are just like the safety caps, so people,
Mhm.
I guess they were donated. But
Mm.
Or they donated, yeah, there's a lot of those
Yeah.
missing in spots and
Mhm.
a lot of them just don't work, yeah.
Yeah. But the safety trail thing was donated by somebody, this kid had a pretty bad accident.
Yeah,
So to help locate emergency,
makes sense.
you need to call it.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Any other location spots or, I mean, how many are we thinking? 2 is good again, or should we do 3
Well, let's see what the city has
for resources?
for
available?
resources first,
Okay,
right? That,
As
Doug
in
and Josh.
staff available. to-
Yeah, what staff is available and what tasks can be done, because not every park has the same needs, right? And if we, I'm making this up, if we can't pressure wash because that violates the union contract, you know, okay, then we don't need to be assigning, cleaning the play equipment at Crescent Creek as a task. So, the resources that are available and the tasks that we can do will help determine what parks we can look at.
I think also, if you had some pre-planning, you'd be surprised what people could execute. So for example, somebody was mentioning structural repairs to platforms or boardwalks. That kind of thing, it's if a specific group was tasked or volunteered for that activity and was given a couple of weeks' notice to go out there, survey it, gather the materials, you'd be surprised what could be accomplished, assuming that it's compatible with liability and union laws and other things. Anyway, just a thought. I used to be involved with public service initiative in where I used to live, and we used to do amazing things on people's houses just by getting a group together, giving them a month notice, go out, survey it, plan it, and get it all done in one weekend. But anyway, it's the thought.
and some of these larger businesses around town and groups have definitely shown interest. I know Ocean Five said, yeah, we'd send a whole bunch of people out,
Right.
and Target has sent that large group out before, and
Yep.
yeah. So,
Yeah, and Home Depot has always been a partner in these kind of things, like that's involves some materials, you know, Lowe's, that kind of stuff.
yeah. So, yeah, they're always looking to get involved, and it's just a matter of getting out to them and let them know when, where, and who. and what
Lowe's
we're
was
looking
great
for.
when we had that hurricane and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or that tornado.
Okay, so you'll approach city, Kyle, and
Yep.
see what we got available for resources.
Yep.
Okay,
I found the executive director for Key Penn Parks is Tracy Perkowski. And her phone number is 253-514-0876.
Thank you.
Tracy at keypennparks.com. And Tracy is Tracey.
Okay.
But anyway, Tracy Perkowski.
Okay.
okay. Any other conversation on that? Good for now? Okay, April 22nd, I think we usually do it 9 to, is it 9 to noon? 9 to noon?
Yeah, I
That
think
we
so.
do, and then Parks Commission show up like a half
It
hour
was,
before
it
that.
was actually, because as soon as I started typing Parks Appreciation, and then it came up from last year and said, do you want to go back to Veterans Park? From 9 to 1. So apparently it was from 9 to 1.
Okay,
And then did someone solicit like businesses or something to donate coffee or?
Actually, I
would say it was Matthew.
I think it
did-
was-
bet you did,
Yeah,
and
Cause he got like Crumble Cookie to donate some stuff.
yeah, Crumble Cookie donated, and somebody donated the coffee. Yeah, it was not Starbucks, it was somebody else, I can't remember,
it wasn't a little container.
I don't
deals?
remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, cause we did, yes, it was Starbucks, cause we picked it up from Starbucks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty good. about that.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll get to that then.
Okay, so we'll jump to the old item 4, new item 5, election of chair and vice chair. Any,
Wait, aren't you the chair?
yeah,
Can you stay the chair?
I can,
Yeah. And
okay.
aren't you the vice chair?
I am.
You guys are doing a great job.
Wonderful.
Was that a nomination and a vote that just happened?
Nominations be closed.
Can we make it formal?
Yeah, I'd like
Okay.
to move that you be the chair and you be the vice chair continuing.
Great, great decision.
That's a second from Les. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
That was easy.
I got Doug too.
Okay.
Any opposed?
Hey.
Nay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Will doesn't get him up because he's not here.
yeah, I know. Should have voted him as. Surprise. Okay, item 6, staff report. That's fine. Parks Division update. Fabulous Parks Manager.
Alright, so, other things going on. So Jeff Langhelm and I went and met with the school district about a possible parking sharing agreement with, them at Swiftwater for, our sports complex. Hopefully we won't need it, but yeah, they were amenable to that and asked a lot of questions about the sports complex and such. So, moving forward with that when we have the time. And then,
Does that alleviate any of our parking like obligation, or is that just
so
supplemental?
it's kind of, we don't have, I guess in our code, there's not a parking application for that use.
Mhm.
So, and both Jeff and I have kids who play sports. And so we're like, well, the more parking, the better, really. So we're looking at it and then we're asking them to study how much will be necessary for phases 2 and 3, which is my next item, which hoping to get that RFQ out Friday. And then we'll have that open for 3 weeks to get a consultant to help us study phases 2 and 3.
Is there parking at the supplemental parking in the Y parking lot?
I mean, depending on the time of day,
It can be pretty crowded.
yeah.
Good.
Evenings, it's pretty
If you
crowded.
drive through there when the elementary school is out, there's plenty of parents parking it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's one.
Ah,
Oh, the run across the street or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of process.
Yeah, and we assume there will be a little cool playground across the street eventually too, but. So we're looking at that.
So what's the RFP for?
Feasibility study for phases 2 and 3, which
Okay.
you know where phase 2 and 3 are. soon. Yeah. So
Okay.
done phase 2 and 3 is for south of the YMCA.
Yeah.
And includes the baseball fields that are currently there. And they will always, baseball will have a priority during baseball for that segment. So, oh, and I mentioned already Harborview and Cushman connection. Will be working on that.
You said there's money in the budget for a feasibility study, right? Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's also money in this budget for some mortar trail connections that Cape Harbor North. Looking at the Burnham, the old Burnham properties, I have still not been out there, but Jeff and I talked about it on the map, like in the very northwest corner of the city.
Yeah, it's like a giant gully.
Yeah,
It's kind of down and out.
yeah. And then some of the property that's around sports complex and then connecting sports complex trails to sidewalks. To the school trail, there's a trail that runs on the backside of the Swiftwater and school, and connect that to the neighborhood. And then sports complex. And then the baseball fields to Cushman. So
They're very close.
they are very close.
Yeah. Yeah, that, the baseball field is definitely better
Is-
connectivity, because
Is
I've,
there a plan for, like, you know, where Cushman has at, Oregon, one up the hill? Is that other part of the pole line road gonna be developed as part of the Cushman
the
Trail?
phase 5,
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the plan's already part of our,
Because that
Oh,
would have
man.
probably connect up with the old Burnham property, you know, in a weird roundabout sort of way.
yeah, I think we're still trying to find funding to get over or under or
Okay.
through.
There is.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, that busy street,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And there is some funding for looking at that,
Mm.
I think, but that, we don't, think that's scheduled to start. More this late this year. or next. Trails, oh, the Ansich pavers, which we talked about at the last meeting,
Mhm.
there was a little delay on that, and there's some questions we needed resolved, but, Stephanie knows, it was, perfect alignment of situations in that talking again how there was no inventory of what is on those pavers currently. And then one of our department heads came and said, Jennifer, do you have any volunteer hours for a student this weekend? Like this weekend?
As a
And
matter of fact, we do.
wait a second. So he went and, yeah, he needed it for Honor Society credit. something like that. Anyway, so he made us a little diagram, and then he took a photo of every single paver, and then he wrote in a spreadsheet the name of the boat, the captains, all of that, so we have that now, because there's probably some issues with it, but.
Yeah, we started cross-checking it with a boat database that we have at the museum. Now, I know I'm not saying that that one is 100% perfect, but there are some discrepancies. And I actually checked a couple of boat years with some local boat skippers, and it's like, no, that one wasn't built in 1939. That was built in
We can,
25.
let's reference them with the photos, I just simply emailing photos.
Right,
That's
and
what
we may come back to you and say, can we just double check that, because
Absolutely.
I want to make sure that I'm assuming that whatever information comes on the final spreadsheet is what will go to the people that are engraving the papers. So it's less of an issue of what's on the papers now and more about what should be on the papers in the future.
Getting that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the
Information.
rest.
yeah. And,
Right now,
and the papers only show skippers or owners that are directly tied to Gig Harbor. They're not, like if the boat had a previous owners, like in Anacortes or something, they're not showing that. They're only showing the Gig Harbor people associated with the boat. So, and that's fair. I mean, that's legit, but it just makes it a little layer complicated.
Yeah, and some of them were kind of hard to read.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think
can
it's a
see why
good
they-
project because it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be done.
And we had shown a picture of the sample paper, which I actually have in my office.
Hmm.
I'd only seen a photo of it before, and we showed the mayor and city administrator it, and they were like, I'm not sure. They kind of wanted, there was debate about if we want them to change out the tiles that are not engraved as well.
Oh, mhm.
And it looked kind of like it had yellow in it when we first, but now it's totally gray, and
Yeah.
so I think it looks.
It'll blend,
It blends in fine. The question and it kind of makes an area rug effect if it's like framed by blank ones. But and there's questions about where the tables are, because they're not right over there. I think it looks okay. staying
Yeah.
on. But it's not ultimately like, so we'll be bringing that to council as well.
There's a psychic park that will never die. Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand there's likely to be some opposition replacing them all as well.
Oh.
So, our crews have been reporting that there are people like staying in and trashing the bathrooms at the parks. So, they actually found there was an issue with the locks. They fixed those, but the police have been doing some random checking, but and we prop them open where they lock. And I find like drug paraphernalia, et cetera, in there too, and sometimes like, yeah, like Kyle said, mind if they are in there to stay warm, but trash it. So
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
No issues with the boathouse itself, insecurity there? With the boat storage?
Heard of our biggest issue, oh, that's another thing, the biggest issue was people leaving their kayaks past their, clean out date. So it still has like six or seven of them.
Revenue for the city.
Yeah. Sales. They were actually working on a policy, which may end up being just a part of their agreement, but giving them a few days to clean out, although, Kyle City doesn't care if it can use kayak stay over if they're renting for the next period, but they want to hose down and clean out
Yeah.
the place and make sure it's okay, but, yeah, he ended up taking like 12
Oh, my God.
teams, and so a few of them have, he's arranged to pick them up, but we're starting to think about maybe like finding them a certain amount of money, and then if it's by this rock hard date, we're surplusing it.
Was is it fully rented for this season?
Josh would know better than me. I think there's a couple slots left over. I think this is a less popular time of year
Yeah.
than the other.
I think we were pretty close to right at capacity, so there may be a little bit of space, but it worked out just about perfect.
But he got rejected this time.
Okay, so that is excellent intel that we're at for this period, the rental space meets demand,
Mhm.
right? And then it's, how far for the first summer, it was, there were people rejected, right?
Yeah, there were probably, I want to say about 30 applicants that didn't get in.
With the initial one and everything like that, so, yeah, they're probably pretty high demand on that first lottery. I'm sure some of the people who didn't get chosen on the first one are now in that second one, so.
Yeah,
I think it's probably, personally, I think it's more appealing time of year, the second half of the year. July.
yeah, so that's also a pricing opportunity, right? That the pricing in the high demand summer season is higher than the winter, incentivize the winter, or we seem to be just about right on for the winter and could maybe increase the rate a little bit for the summer.
And then the last item I had was, we got permission to work with Great Peninsula Conservancy to reach out to property owners of 11 acres north of the North Creek, whatever we were just
Yeah.
talking about. Which is a couple, owned by a couple that lives in Federal Way, and they're thinking about it.
Oh, good.
They said that preserving it might be more desirable than developing it, so they're kind of going over their documents and will get back to us. So the point is, we don't have a lot of cash to be buying more properties, and definitely the sports complex is gonna be a high priority for our dollars that we do have. But if we can get a conservation features grant to help pay for a big chunk, and then the Gig Harbor Land Conservation Trust, led by Robin Denson, could raise some money for that as well. Anyway,
Is that the parcel that includes the creek?
Yep.
Okay.
yep, just remember there, it goes all the way to the Cushman Trail and Vernon as well. So,
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
The full span?
yeah,
Okay.
they're undeveloped. So we're looking into that. Yeah.
Okay.
So do we have a timeline or a plan for trail development in this property?
No, neither of us at this time, besides the Harbor, the Cushman Harbor View connection, which we are looking at the feasibility of that late this year.
And then, I know there is a grant in the works for culvert removal on that creek. Is it only for the culvert removal? Or is it for anything else? You know, because a lot of times grants require some sort of interpretation or public access or something like that, or is it just?
I'm not sure what exactly the grant will cover, but I think the plan is to have a trail that does go under the bridge. But I don't know if the grant covers that or if that would come. from the city funds.
It sounded like it was an $8 million project with a $4 million grant.
Yes, but I understand we don't know for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'll get it, you know. It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's right there,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's daylighting that,
Yeah, that, I'm pretty sure that culvert was built in the 1930s. Just from the look of it and the way the concrete forms are and stuff. So that's my guess. And so they would remove that culvert and open up the creek all the way under the bridge.
I see.
Yeah, which means there would be access in theory along the edge of, or across Donkey Creek Park with the pathway. And then under that bridge over into that whole area.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get access into Donkey Creek. Like the park itself, like a stairway or something right there.
Yeah, if you went through Donkey Creek, you could in theory go under the road there, because that'll be a bridge,
Mm.
kind of like how they did with the.
Oh, okay, over the
With
other
Donkey
side,
Creek on the back, let them.
I got you. Cause there's already currently a trail across the street from there, right? A little like access trail.
Sort of, kind of,
Yeah, okay. And then is it the sidewalk widening or something like that? Is that currently happening? I don't know. I feel like it's a mess of construction right there right now.
Sure it is.
It's
That's
terrible.
With the.
It's
gas-
awful.
gas
Who
line
paved
group,
that thing?
It's PSC's contract.
Goodness gracious, that is
Really
an
bad.
awful paved job.
Right, right.
Like,
Like,
I think you're-
it's temporary.
Do it over.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, even temporary, it's like,
I mean, you know, like,
It's bad. I'm sorry, I'm not sure on that.
and that project's just called what, the 96th Street sidewalk widening? Is that what
Yeah,
it's
the
called?
bird, I think bird,
Okay,
yeah, I'll check on that.
yeah, I mean. With the trails and then the connectivity with the sidewalk, the widening of the sidewalks, like, that could all be very nice.
Good, yeah.
You know, especially. That connectivity that we heard a lot from that proposed plan, so that'd be awesome. Okay, any other questions for Jen?
No.
You prefer Jen or Jen?
Either one.
Okay. That's kind of sound like Ben or Vincent, like either one. No. Josh, city administration update, I believe.
it's like, I peaced out.
Probably eat dinner, right?
Wait a minute.
Josh? I see
He's
Jen.
on.
Apparently, there's no report.
Let's have step aside for-
That's right. Move on
Yeah,
to,
he is still connected.
Yeah.
move on to commissioner reports and comments. Anything for the good of the order?
I don't have anything.
No, I know that title surge, got really close to that new art piece.
Well, yeah, it was an island.
Kind of worried about that.
I was too, right?
Yeah, it survived fine.
Yeah,
It
this
was an
time,
island.
this time.
Well, and all the work that went into figuring out how tall it should be, right? And a year's worth of discussion with the civil engineers about tides and then shoot, like, not even 6 inches of clearance there to the bottom of the. park.
Yeah, that was
Like, oh,
a scare for sure.
really?
Overlook Murphy's Landing Marina, and they have these pilings. I thought the piling was gonna go, the dock was gonna go.
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Up over the top of the island.
Yeah, and it came that close. I have some pictures, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was scary.
Jeff, and the engineers I work with, we're talking about, I guess, the barometric pressure
But
added an 18 inches
Wow.
to what the tide was expected to be. So, because the next day it was very similar, but it wasn't nearly as bad.
Metro sustained, a lot of damage.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a long time and a lot of money to fix some of those things.
Yeah.
But especially at the boathouse, which flooded
Oh, yeah.
2 feet up the office,
Oh, gosh.
and into the inventory and all of that. They're now officed in a mobile trailer, and we're
Yikes.
gonna end up gutting the office area of the boathouse and raising the floor of a historic building, right, with all the complications that go along with that. But the next day, the freeze happened, right? And the whole fire suppression system in where all the boats, boat storages that rent to the public. The fire suppression system was under repair and it burst, and flooded the whole damn thing. And so there, right,
Yeah, that's.
but the Titlow pedestrian bridge over the creek at Titlow Creek, completely lifted and went away and is now in a tree.
What?
It did not stay attached.
Oh,
It was a low bridge and it completely separated from its moorings and headed inland.
Oh, my God.
There are a series of things, and the rust and wave damage is significant.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, the fireboat nearly refloated,
Oh, that's exciting.
but sadly, none of its electrical did.
No, no.
Oh,
Yeah. Josh, anything on the city administration update?
Yeah, sorry, I had to step away for a few minutes. Yeah, kind of the big thing in the city right now is we are just releasing our draft ordinance for short-term rental regulations, which has been a really hot topic around the city. So that will be, I think that'll post tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. If you have any interest in that and what's been going on there, you can look for that. I think Tiffany reached out to Louise and Will today. Their terms on the Parks Commission are going to expire in March. So we've advertised the vacancy for those two positions. They're both welcome to reapply, of course. So we'll look forward to seeing their applications and whoever else wants to throw their hat in the ring.
Better reply.
It's gonna be the shortest vice chairmanship.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, so those we'll probably be able to announce who the people will be that are appointed probably by the end of March before their terms are up. So those are up now. Yeah, like Jennifer mentioned, I'm kind of wearing a lot of hats. Laura Pettit resigned as the Tourism and Communication Director back in December. So the clerk's office has taken on communication duties and tourism planning responsibilities. So as of now, I'm the point of contact for events like Summer Sounds and those types of things that'll be happening in the park. So once I kind of figure out what's going there, I can give you guys some updates on what that's going to look like. You
I
guys,
thought you were gonna say that you were the contact person for everything.
Yeah.
yes, pretty much.
Almost, yeah.
So
Yeah.
for everything.
That's
That's
a lot, Josh.
Yeah.
No, we are getting a lot of help though. Tiffany, my assistant city clerk, she's been picking up a lot of the slack with communications. I hope that all of you are signed up for our Gigabyte weekly newsletter. Does any of you not receiving that?
I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, Doug,
I have written, I've signed up 3 times too.
yeah. We have trouble getting it through to some employees for some reason, but Doug, I'll sign you up for it.
Thank you.
We are really ramping that up. Laura kind of started it up as being more of a city newsletter rather than a tourism newsletter, probably in the last year or two. And we have just kind of wholeheartedly embraced it as the city's newsletter. So anything newsworthy coming out of the city, we're putting into the Gigabyte now. It goes out every Friday, and we've basically taken everybody that's signed up for city emails is on that list, and it's up to about 10,000 subscribers now. So things like Parks Appreciation Day will get, a good head start notice on that, and people shouldn't have any excuses for not knowing about what's going on. It's going to be out there quite a bit. And we're also trying to emphasize our Facebook page more too. That has, I think, 4,000 followers on it now. So we're getting a pretty good reach out, I think, there. So Tiffany's been a big help with that, and she's kind of embraced the communications part of it. I know some of you have probably worked with Scott Keeley before. He's kind of picking up some of the slack at the front desk down in Public Works. And he's been also picking up a lot of the slack with Laura Gone too. He worked in parks operations for a while, and now he's here in the office, and we're kind of putting his skills to use with park stuff. And I think you'll be hearing more from him coordinating activities and things like that. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that Laura was doing in that department is just kind of getting spread out, and we're gonna make ends meet for a while. Trying to think of what else. There's, if you go to our Facebook page, the city was nominated as one of the 10 best small towns in the West.
Voted
It's
for you.
actually open for voting from the public. USA Today is running that competition, so if you want to promote Gig Harbor, you can go and click on that link and vote for us. I think we're actually second right now to Bainbridge Island of all places. So I know we're better than Bainbridge, so we can fix that.
Yeah, but do we want people? to
Right,
know?
I'm over Bainbridge, I'm gonna go there.
They can come here and spend money and leave.
Can I ask a slightly unrelated Facebook question?
Yeah.
I do own, or whatever you want to call it, the Facebook page for the Ansich Park. I haven't been active with it, right? At some point, the building part was off and notifying people about meetings and all of that. Do I keep it? Do I ditch it? What do I do?
Well, I don't know too much about how that works with Facebook. I don't think my whole focus here is just kind of consolidating everything and not having a whole bunch of communication channels. So I don't know that the city would use it for anything.
Okay.
But we may
I
get
don't have to
somebody.
get rid of it. It's just sitting there passively.
Yeah. We may get somebody in here to run communications that might know what to do with it. So maybe hang on to it for a little bit.
Sure. Well, and it has a decent number of people that are interested in the boathouse.
Yeah.
It could be a way to advertise, for instance, for the lottery.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or things like that, and I'd be happy to post that when it's the right time and the link and all of that kind of stuff if you're interested. So just so you know, that's under my purview at this point.
Okay.
My ego's not in it. If someone else wants to do it, I'm fine with that too.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't aware that was out there. So let me think on that one, and I'm sure we can figure out what to do with it.
No urgency.
All
Yeah.
right.
Other stuff with the city, the ballot box for Pierce County elections is now in front of the Civic Center, so you can drop your ballots off there if you want to. I'm trying to think if there's anything else coming up that we need to talk about.
It's no longer at the library or at the fire
At the
station?
fire station.
Okay.
No longer at the fire station.
My family's trek up to the fire station will now be a trek to City Hall.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think that's about it for my update.
Really like and support the gigabyte. That's really nice to have that
It
just
is.
concise
Yeah.
and line piece of
Any-
communication from the city.
Any ideas or feedback you have for that, like information you'd like to see in there? We're looking at, anything we can think of to flush that out and make it as informative as we can.
It's good. I like it. I appreciate it too. Okay, anything else for Josh and Bree?
I can add a good of the order just so you
Yep.
guys are in the loop.
Thanks, Josh.
The museum RFP for construction is out right now, so we're looking at doing the gallery enclosure over the summer, so that may impact the trail, but it shouldn't too much because it's not new construction, it's just enclosing the gallery that's there. So just so you're aware of that timeline, and when I have more details on that timeline, I'll let everybody know, because there is a lot of walking traffic that goes through there, and we're gonna try our best not to block that off. Unless it's absolutely necessary with green trucks or something like that, so.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's going along.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any additional lighting on the exterior gonna be going on there?
There will be lighting ultimately on the, it'll be the same kind of lighting that's on the front of the building that will extend around the back. Right now, it's just, the solar powered, motion sensor stuff, but, there'll be a little more in the back. And it won't be too much to overwhelm the fish, but, that it will definitely be better than what it is. And then ultimately, most of the walls will be windows, so it'll be interior lighting the boat too, so, it won't be just a dark void like it is right now. And part of the reason why the work lights are not on is because A, they're really loud, and B, well, they're really bright, but there's one that is not quite functioning right, and it has a really loud humming sound, so we're just waiting until the electricians redo it. Before we turn the place down, yeah. So, yeah, that's- yeah.
All right. Anything else? Doug, happy to have you. Look forward to our next meeting. It looks like it'll be March 1st as well.
And I should be in town.
If you're unable to attend,
I just
if
had
you're
one
unable to
comment.
attend, feel free to.
I'm sorry. You know, when I told my
Okay.
friends and neighbors that I'm on the commission, besides them asking me why, the next most common question is, can something be done about security on Cushman Trail parking lot? You know, the one near the Home Depot. And I don't know what the answer to that is. You know, I imagine the cameras have been tried and probably vandalized, but you'd be surprised how much energy there is in the community about doing something for that.
That has been a long, I feel like, problem. Every
Yeah.
trailhead along the Cushman Trail.
Yeah, let me reach out to Chief Busey and see if he can come to your next meeting and kind of talk to you about what we've been doing and trying there. I know we've tried a lot of things and I don't know that anything's really been that effective. But I think he'd be happy to come and talk to you at some point and kind of let you know what the situation is.
That'd be great. Happy to have him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. All
Well,
right.
very good. I hope you all have weather that's half as warm as it is here, but I look forward to seeing you in person.
That's what it is, half as warm.
Yeah,
At best.
at that. Okay.
All right, I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
hey.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.